he has been unwilling to me to confirm, but league sources tell me that the San Antonio Spurs are De'Aaron Fox's perfect.
I'm the source now. Trade deadline predictions. It's become a staple here. It's one of my favorite times, one of my favorite things to do. My goal, I want to get a trade right. These are my predictions. These aren't what I would do if I were the GM. These are just straight up my predictions based off of reports we've heard, based off of some speculation and rumors, and really just where I see good fits. I want to get one trade right. Can I get one trade exactly right? Last year, we got so close with the Gordon Hayward trade, and I'm patting myself on the back because if memory serves me correctly, I don't think that there was reporting on that trade when we suggested it. Just thought it was a fit that made a ton of sense. Squished ass graphic. This is ahead of its time. You're talking shit about the graphic design on the title page. This is something you'll look back on in 15 years. Now, some of these trades I've pulled out of my ass. Some of them are trades that I have seen elsewhere that I thought made sense. Do I give credit to those people who made them? No. I have 15 trades total. This aligns with what you usually get around the trade deadline. We haven't gotten any yet. Usually there's some activity around this time. As of the time we're doing this, haven't gotten any yet, but I've got 15 total trades, some of them big, some of them small. If the trade deadline ends up playing out like this, it would be a pretty fucking crazy trade deadline. 26 teams. This aligns with what you see as well across the trade deadline. Teams are busy and active. A lot of teams are busy and active. It's pretty rare to see a team not make a trade at the deadline. Just for a frame of reference, last year, 24 teams made trades, in-season trades. 2023, 28. 2022, 26. 2021, 27. And then in 2020, there was 19 teams that made trades. So over half the league will almost certainly make trades between now and then. 2/3 of the league will make trades between now and next Thursday, and potentially even more than that. 26 teams, 15 trades, one man. Damn, he looks good. Looking good. No filter on that video, by the way. That's just my aura radiating and damaging the camera. Just kidding. These are the teams that I ended up not finding trades for. Now, keep in mind, this is my little trade universe that I'm making here, right? This is my little trade universe. So some of these teams couldn't find trades within the context of my trade universe. That's probably not how I should handle it. I should just throw shit at the wall to see what sticks. Let's start with the Cavs. The Cavs, it's difficult with their cap situation and stuff like that. They have needs, right? They have pressing needs. They're a great basketball team. They've been phenomenal so far this season. And I would like to find a trade for them. The only problem is a lot of the mock trades I see for them include them getting back like 6'4", 6'5" tweener guys, which they really don't need. Like that's really the last thing this team needs. This team needs like a real legitimate forward with some size who can do some stuff, which is why you see Cam Johnson's name brought up quite a bit. I don't like the Cam Johnson trade really for either side, to be honest with you. I don't think the return for the Nets is all that great, and I don't even think it's that good of a deal for the Cavs, to be completely and totally honest with you, because he does solve some of their problems, but not all of them. I could definitely see them making a move for another guy in the backcourt. I mean, when Mobley was dealing with the calf strain recently, Tristan Thompson had 3 straight games with double-digit minutes. That's less than ideal. They lost 2 of those 3 games, so they could use another backup big. But we'll see how the market plays out for them. They haven't made a move at the deadline in the last 2 seasons, so it wouldn't be that surprising to me if they don't do anything this year either. The Rockets, now I'd be interested. All reports say that the Rockets are wanting to sort of, keep this thing going, which I think is the right call. They're way ahead of schedule. Nobody really could have saw this coming. We did predict them to finish top 6 in the West, so we thought that they would improve quite a bit and be a playoff team. This level is just kind of unbelievable and not what we expected really at all. But I would be interested to see what they would have done had De'Aaron Fox said, I want to go to Houston. That would have made things a little bit more interesting. Would they have caved? Would they have gone for it? I don't know. I think they could use something. I mean, they're a great team. Defensively, they're incredible. Amen Thompson, let's see where this goes, because it's going somewhere for sure. But they're the 13th best clutch team, which is, fine. But as an elite team that maybe wants to contend, I mean, once you're in the top 3 seeds, you start to look at your postseason outlook a little bit differently, right? That it turns from, hey, winning a playoff series would be cool too. Could we make a run here? you know, you would like to be better in the clutch than that. 25th in half court offense, that's not going to cut it. Like that's something that absolutely will bite you in the ass come playoff time. And you look at some of their guys in the clutch, some of their main guys in the clutch. Jalen Green, 34% from the field, 27% from three in the clutch. Şengün, 43% from the field. Fred VanVleet, 31% from the field, 27% from three. Them getting like a reliable go-to scorer would be really big for them and would change their ceiling dramatically this year. I even think, this was talked about at times earlier in the season, like if they just swap Jalen Green for Zach LaVine, I think that raises their ceiling quite a bit just because Jalen Green is so inconsistent. You truthfully never know what you're going to get. But I ultimately don't think that they do anything. They're another one of these teams. Could they be in the market for a backup center? Maybe. Robert Williams' name's been tossed around quite a bit in regards to them. But spoiler alert, I don't have Robert Williams getting traded. The Lakers. So if I had to bet $1,000, I would bet they do make a trade between now and the deadline. But we've seen LeBron and AD do the full court press on them before, and it not really lead to anything. And they're doing the full court press now. In my little trade universe, in my little bubble, the market didn't play out for them. Would you the Miles Turner thing is interesting because once again, Miles Turner's name is popping up in rumors, and of course, he's like the betting favorite. I never understand the betting favorite shit for these teams. They're the betting favorite to land. What does that even mean? Where can you fucking bet this? Makes no sense. They're the betting favorite to land Miles Turner once again. I really can't for the life of me understand why the Pacers would trade Miles Turner now, unless he's outright said he's not re-signing there. Timberwolves, I mean, the second apron absolutely kills them. It's very difficult to find a trade for them. 5 years ago, before this new CBA, we're hearing a million different Julius Randle mock trades. Like there's a new Julius Randle mock trade every 30 minutes, right? But this year it's just not going to happen. Even if they were looking to move Julius Randle, it's difficult to find a return for him. And it also turns into, okay, cool. You want to trade Julius Randle? Great. Guess what? A team has to trade for him. It's that damn thing, and it's that thing in sports that just sucks. Where if you want to trade a guy, another team has to also say yes to the trade. We always forget that. The Thunder, kind of. I have them making a trade here now. I want the Thunder to do something. I do. In our 2025 predictions, I predicted that the Thunder would make a big trade and go on to win the NBA Finals. I've walked off of that ledge. I don't think they do it. All the reporting says they're not going to do it. The reporting says that they don't want Cam Johnson. I don't fucking get it at all. I think it would fit so well for them. I think it fits an area of need so badly. They need more shooting. They need more actual, real, reliable shooting. You have some guys who are shooting well from three this year. Like Lou Dort shooting a high percentage from three this year. I just witnessed in the playoffs a team's entire defensive strategy be, hey, Lou Dort, shoot threes. We don't care. Shoot them. We dare you to shoot them at a high enough clip. I saw it last night versus the Warriors as well. I don't want to use single game regular season stuff to really, indict a team. But yeah, it's a problem for them at times. Having another reliable ball handler off the bench could be nice for the Thunder. I've seen scenarios where if the Spurs land De'Aaron Fox and Chris Paul gets rerouted elsewhere, the Thunder bring him in. That would be really interesting. I think the Spurs would really like to hold on to Chris Paul, though, just for the veteran leadership piece of it all. But they're a below-average three-point shooting team. They're real prone to just tough stretches from three. And their defense is so good that a lot of the times it doesn't matter. But in the playoffs, where the margin of error is very slim and you're playing the elite teams every single night, yeah, it could be a problem for them. I mean, it definitely could. Also, on top of that, I mentioned needing maybe another guy potentially, or just somebody who can sort of steady the ship when Shai's off the court. I mean, their offense is 13 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the court versus when he's off. That's a testament to how incredible he's been, just having an all-time great season from a guard, obviously. But also, just kind of speaks to their lack of another guy to sort of captain the ship whenever he leaves the court. The big trades. We're done fucking around. We're done playing games. Let's go, baby. Let's ramp it up. We're starting with the biggest trade first. What do we think it is, guys? We're starting with the biggest trade first. You guys like that effect? I'm telling you guys, 15 years from now, you're going to look back at the stream and it's going to be Duop Reith to the Indiana Pacers for James Wiseman and 2 second-round picks. I don't even know what Duop Reith's market is. Now, I want to say this really quickly about the Pacers is Thomas Bryant's been really, really solid for them. The Pacers are playing really good basketball. This is the only trade I have for the Pacers. I wanted to do something bigger they have such a deep rotation currently. Like Jarris Walker needs to be playing minutes. I mean, you drafted him top 10 2 years ago, and he looks good when he's out there. Does he have his flaws as a player? Sure. But he looks good enough that, hey, I want him playing so we can develop him further. And they just have so many guys currently that it's difficult. They will make a trade at some point to consolidate some of that. I'm just not sure it's happening now. But getting another center could help them out quite a bit. Thomas Bryant has been really good for them since he's come over. 7 points per game, 4 rebounds per game in 20 games so far. 43% from 3 on 2 attempts. Super high energy big. I love the way that he's played. Anytime I watch a Pacers game, I'm like, damn, Thomas Bryant looks good. Which a lot of the times I watch Thomas Bryant through his screen, I did not think he was an NBA player. So shout out to Thomas Bryant for that. Shout out to the Pacers because they're playing really well. But getting a guy like Duop Reath could help just in case something happens to Miles Turner or something happens to Thomas Bryant. Wiseman, a former top 2 pick, he's going to cost more. Who's going to tell him? Next trade, another groundbreaker, another earth shatterer. Eric Gordon to the Magic for Corey Joseph in a second. I don't know what the 76ers do. This is the only 76ers trade. You could tell me 1,000 different things the 76ers do. They're playing a lot better lately. That much is certain. The way the Eastern Conference is, they're going to be in the play-in tournament. They just are. But I don't think bottoming out and tanking is going to happen for them. They're going to win enough games, especially if Embiid comes back and plays. They're going to win enough games to make the play-in tournament. So with Daryl Morey at the helm, you could tell me they make a trade for Cam Johnson. You could tell me that there was some reports floating around that they're interested in Jimmy Butler. Like, I could see them making an uber aggressive move. We're all like, whoa, what the fuck? Daryl Morey's really off his rocker. Or you could tell me they trade Yabusele, they trade Eric Gordon. Maybe they look to move Caleb Martin. Like, they're just trying to get some pieces in return for this nightmare season. Eric Gordon's been 1.19 points per possession on spot ups so far this season. That's the best since 2014, 2015 for him. 49% from 3 over the last month on nearly 5 attempts per game. Obviously, a minimum guy that they brought in. If a team swoops in and is offering a second-round pick for a guy you paid a minimum contract who's older and playing out of his mind a little bit and is almost certainly going to come back down to earth in the not-so-near future, I do think that, or the not-so-distant future, I think that you entertain that idea. The Magic are 30% from 3 as a team this season. 30. I'm not rounding down. It's 30%. Last by a mile. Now let's get into some of the bigger stuff and just some of the teams. The Pelicans, what do? They're such an interesting team, right? We mentioned this at the top of the stream, talking about their game last night with the Mavs, but they're better than their record indicates now. Zion's back. Zion looks great physically. He looks phenomenal. That's good. That's good news for the Pelicans. Obviously, the way that their season has started, though, unfortunately for them, there's no hope, right? The Pelicans are 12-36. They'd have to play. They'd seriously have to play at like a 70-win pace from here on out just to have a chance at the 10 seed, and it's not happening. And even then, they've lost 4 straight games. Some of them close, some of them competitive against good teams, but it's just one of those seasons for them. So do they try to consolidate? Do they try to, get some assets for some guys, use this season from hell as an excuse to sort of recoup some assets? I don't have a Zion trade. Trading Zion makes no sense to me now. You're going to be selling low on Zion, and it's just, why would I do that? I'd rather just ride it out with him than sell him for pennies on the dollar. It makes no sense. Brandon Ingram's interesting. I tried to think of a Brandon Ingram trade. He kind of slipped through the cracks. I was going through making these trades, like, oh shit, I forgot about Brandon Ingram. Very difficult to find an Ingram trade. I really did try. The Raptors rumors are interesting to me. It's probably going to end up being a team like that, like the contending teams. Contractually, it's a very difficult one. And 2, you'd be trading for him with the idea being we're going to pay him in the offseason. He's probably not getting a max contract. Let's say he gets like $30+ million a year. That's kind of difficult for a lot of these contending teams. A difficult pill for them to swallow. A team like Toronto does make some sense, although you look at their roster, if they were to trade for Brandon Ingram and pay him a lot of money, they're very expensive. They got Scotty Barnes on a huge deal. They've got RJ on a big deal. They gave Quickly that big deal. Pirtle's making a good amount of money. Like, I that would be a very expensive roster, but I do find it interesting. And I think there's some interesting smoke there. The Raptors said that they want to find a guy that they can put next to Scotty Barnes. I think Brandon Ingram complements Scotty Barnes pretty well. And I find those rumors pretty interesting. But I couldn't find one ultimately for Brandon Ingram. And if you're the Pelicans, honestly, it's shitty to say, I think you'd rather Brandon Ingram walk for nothing than get like some bad contracts in return that are on your books, especially for a team that by all accounts wants to get under the tax and does not want to spend money. So this is a trade I have for them. I just think you're going to get trades like this that are kind of small. You know, getting off Javonte Green and Daniel Tice, those two moves get them under the salary, the luxury tax, which is something they reportedly want to do. I like it for the Knicks. Jericho Sims is reportedly available. A second rounder for Javonte Green. You just get a professional basketball player if you're the Knicks who's a good defender, plays really hard. I think fits in pretty well with the Knicks got going on. I mean, to be fair, Javonte Green fits in pretty much anywhere, just that type of player. But hardworking defender off the bench. The Knicks don't have a lot of needs. We know the Knicks, they like their rotation. Their rotation's really fucking good. The Knicks don't need to do anything too big to their roster. And I've been saying over the past week or so, I don't see for the Knicks, like, trading Mitchell Robinson, what does that get you in return that raises your ceiling more than a Mitchell Robinson return would? Like, obviously, yes, there's risk involved with Mitchell Robinson potentially getting injured, but there's also risk involved in any trade that you make. This next one is my favorite trade I have out here. I fucking love it. I don't know if it would happen. I don't know what this guy's market is. I don't know if the team acquiring this guy would even be interested in this, but it makes so much sense to me personally. And that is CJ McCollum making his way to Detroit with the Pelicans getting Tim Hardaway Jr., Simone Fontecchio, just for some money and a couple second-round picks. I mean, is that CJ McCollum's market? He's making $30+ million. He's on the wrong side of 30, becoming a little bit of a more inconsistent guy, not having that great of a season. Granted, I don't know how much stock I'd put into that given how bad the Pelicans have been and just how weird their situation's been so far this season. But I would love this for the Pistons. And, you know, Cade Cunningham is making the All-Star game. That announcement's coming tonight. Going to be a great scene whenever he makes it. The Pistons are the 8th seed currently, as of the time we're doing this, with they're half a game out of the 6th seed. Like, the playoffs are within your reach if you're Detroit. You have the Pistons are in an interesting spot here where they have $14 million in cap space. So there's two ways they can go about this deadline. They can just be a facilitator in a bigger trade for someone else. They can take Pat Connaughton from the Bucks for picks down the line. That way the Bucks can make trades. They could be a part of a Suns Jimmy Butler trade and take on a bad contract or two from somewhere else and get picks in return. Or they can look to upgrade their roster. And I would love for them to be a little bit aggressive here, especially if there's a guy like CJ McCollum on the market who is cheap. You know, you're paying, I would say, about 60, 70 cents on the dollar for a guy like this. And there's, you know, Cade gets compared to Luka at times. Luka light. I think that's an unfair comparison, but okay. I see it, right? And that comparison's been very true lately because since Jaden Ivey's gone out with an injury, Cade's at a 35% usage rate, averaging 5 turnovers per game over that stretch. He's been great. I don't hold the turnovers against him. The ball's been in his hands so much, he needs somebody else. He desperately needs somebody else to help him out. CJ McCollum is perfect. And if we're going to go with the Luka comparisons, it's like the Mavs trading for Kyrie, bring in CJ, great off guard, great catch and shoot guy, great shooter, great movement shooter, so many different things you can do with CJ McCollum, help space the floor for you, but also somebody you put the ball in his hands, can go get a bucket, can play make for you, can lead the offense when Cade's on the bench, a guy who's been in playoff games. So if you do end up making the playoffs this year, you have that experience in CJ McCollum. Our next trades. Another one of these teams that's probably selling has already made 2 trades so far this season. That obviously being the Dennis Schroeder trade and the Dorian Finney-Smith trade. A few guys that they have on their roster that could really potentially change things for a team. Unfortunately, I couldn't think of a Cam Johnson trade. Now, in my made-up trade world, it just didn't plan out. If I had to bet $100, I'm really not sure, actually. I could definitely see Cam Johnson staying on the Nets and them thinking about it, a trade in the summer or even next trade deadline. He's got 2 years left on his deal after this one. So there's not like a super big rush to trade him. I would love for the Thunder to do it. I would. But who knows? It could be some posturing from Oklahoma City. It could be. And it also sounded like the Kings were like very close to a trade with him. Could still circle back to that, maybe. Even if they trade De'Aaron Fox, I could see the Kings still circling back to that. The only trade I had the Nets making between now and the deadline is just a small trade like this. Day'Ron Sharpe to the Celtics for Jaden Springer in a couple of seconds. That's really it. I do like Day'Ron Sharpe, but I don't know what his market would be. It could be more expensive than this. They could not want to trade Day'Ron Sharpe. Restricted free agent at the end of the season. Great rebounder, great offensive rebounder, great hustle guy. The Celtics are shopping Jaden Springer. Now, I think it's much more realistic. I saw Celtics fans who think Jaden Springer and a couple of firsts could land you Walker Kessler. Like that's a trade that they're hoping for, which is wishful thinking to say the least. But I respect it, of course. That's what I love about the trade deadline. Hope springs eternal. That's what I love about it. Everybody, no matter your situation, everyone talks themselves into a crazy trade or two for their own team. Whether that's buying, of course, the Mavs. Well, what about Herb Jones? Herb Jones, Maxi Kleba, and Omax for Herb Jones. It's like, are you threatening everybody in the Pelicans front office family at gunpoint? Because that's the only way that fucking works. And then you even have like the Wizards is like, man, can we land like Kyle Kuzma for a couple of firsts? It's like, what? Chicago Bulls. Couldn't find a Zach LaVine trade. Couldn't do it. I wanted to so badly. It's so fucking hard. I spent so long on the Spotrac trade machine trying to figure out Zach LaVine to Milwaukee trade that I thought really made sense. And in my fairy tale made up trade world, I just couldn't for the life of me do it. I just assumed that Chris Middleton would get rerouted somewhere, and it's just really hard to find a team that would be in on that. I mean, he looks washed, man. It's sad. It really is, because I really do like Chris Middleton's game a lot. It's like a lost art, but that's a tough contract for any team to be super excited about. And if I'm the Bulls, like I'm already trading a very valuable asset now in Zach LaVine to a team that's kind of doesn't have great assets to return and trade. Like the 2031 Bucks pick is interesting. I'd be all over that. But the problem is I'm giving up Zach LaVine and I'm also taking shit contracts in return. And I would just like a little bit more. Zach LaVine's been incredible so far this season. I mean, 24 points per game, 44% from three. The Warriors rumors intrigue me quite a bit for him. There's been some rumblings. And yesterday they got kind of loud about Zach LaVine. That's interesting for me. The Warriors are so funny because every game I watch for them, when they lose, I'm like, man, they need a trade. And then they win. Like they get a really impressive win last night against the Warriors. And I'm still like, damn, they need a trade. Like, damn. Like Steph Curry pops off in the second half of that game. It's just, you give them someone. And then they lose, and I'm like, man, give him someone. You know? Of course, Zach LaVine's under contract after this year as well. I think 2 years left after this season. So the Bulls could just ride this thing out. If he continues to play well this season, there will still be suitors in the summer, I'd have to imagine. This next trade's really stupid. This was just a fuck it, why not trade. I think it was like 2 a.m. whenever I concocted this trade. Lonzo Ball to the Hornets. Why not? Let's just do it. Family reunion. That's really it. Basketball-wise, I think, other than the fact that this would be an interesting family reunion. Also, honestly, LaMelo and Lonzo backcourt is pretty interesting. If the idea for Charlotte is, let's bring in Lonzo. We want him in the offseason. I've already seen some speculation that the Hornets would want Lonzo in the offseason. We want him in the offseason. Let's just get his bird rights. I do think contenders would be interested in Lonzo, but again, it's just the $21 million makes it really difficult. I'm nervous about this next one because I don't want you guys to yell at me. This next trade is my Mavs. It is the only trade I have for the Mavs, and I don't love it at all. I think the Warriors get Vucevic. I'm reading the writing on the wall. With Vooch. Okay, here's the writing. Stretch big next to Curry. Interesting. Space the floor. Shoot the three ball. Right? Hey! Over the last couple of weeks, they've been playing Quentin Post quite a bit. Now, why is that? Why does that mean anything? The Warriors play 37 guys. Why does that mean anything at all? He's a stretch big. It could be a showcase type of thing. Let's see how this team would look with a stretch five. 37% from 3 on 4 attempts a game for Quentin Post. Vucevic, a resurgence season. A trade like this would have been unthinkable this time last year for the Bulls. 20 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, 39% from 3. Granted, 27% from 3 over the last month for Vucevic, so he's crashing back down to earth a little bit. But next to Steph Curry with some spacing, would get some great looks. Would get some really solid rebounding as well, which the Warriors are in need of at times. I do like it for them. Now they trade Dennis Schroeder. The Dennis Schroeder trade has not worked. It's not a fit whatsoever. Let's talk about the Mavs side of this. I know you guys said the Mavs get another guard. I understand. I get where you guys are coming from. I'm telling you right now, They have some guards. I don't know how to feel about Exum. I love the idea of Dante Exum. I do. I love the way he played for the Mavs in the regular season last year. The last time we saw him play basketball, he was unplayable in the playoffs. I don't know where he fits into this rotation. Exum could come back and barely play at all, and that would not surprise me. Exum could come back and get 15 to 20 minutes a night, and that wouldn't surprise me either. I don't know what they're doing. Here's the thing the Mavs desperately need. They need somebody, anybody, who they feel very confident in at the point of attack defensively. And Gary Payton's not coming in to start. Gary Payton is not coming in to play huge minutes. You're trading away Maxi Kleber, which is an undesirable contract, who broke his foot and might not play the rest of the season. Has there been a timetable for Maxi Kleber? Gary Payton gives you that, where if the matchup calls for it, you could put Gary Payton out there to play defense. The Mavericks would be turning an undesirable contract into like just somebody who they could plug in from time to time. And by the way, in this scenario, this Warriors pick, I would have to say very heavily protected. Very heavily protected. If they make a big trade, I'd be very shocked. Like, very shocked. If they make a trade where they add a guy into like the top 7 or 8 of their rotation, I would be incredibly surprised. Shout out to China. Jimmy Butler. 1 to 10. Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Passes. Jimmy Butler's still on the Miami Heat. 1 to 10. Surprise scale. I think I'd be a 6 or 7. I'd be surprised, but it wouldn't be like what? He didn't get traded? I mean, I definitely close my eyes and I imagine a scenario where Jimmy Butler's still on the Heat and then he posts some lame-ass Instagram meme video that was like, you guys thought I was leaving? It was like, yeah, you got to spin it 3 separate times. We did think you were leaving. The Bradley Beal part becomes very difficult to maneuver around. The no trade clause and him just flexing that is hilarious. I just kind of thought he would waive it, but him flexing that no trade clause is really funny. Adds a whole hilarious wrinkle to this whole thing. And then the fact that finding a team that's like, hell yeah, I'll take Beal when the teams involved don't have a lot of assets to sweeten the pot makes it really difficult. I do have a trade. The reporting on this says the absolute opposite, but sometimes the NBA is like a soap opera. Day of our lives. This just makes so much fucking sense to me, man. I mean, it just makes so much sense. Jimmy Butler ending up on the Memphis Grizzlies. I know that they have said, and look, I've said this, where there's smoke, there's fire. Jimmy's team coming out and saying, Memphis, don't do it. Don't do it, Memphis. Made me perk my ears up a little bit. Because why would you do that? Why would you make, I mean, they've already made an ass out of themselves, but why would you continue to make an ass out of yourself in that manner unless there was some like real smoke? Unless Jimmy's agent was like, yo, they're not fucking around, dude. They want you. They want to trade for you. We know the Grizzlies were aggressive in their pursuit of Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, obviously, this is a big time different trade here. But the salaries make sense. What the Heat want aligns with what the Grizzlies have to trade. So basketball-wise, let's take Jimmy the person out of the equation. Basketball-wise, Jimmy the basketball player. Even in his older age, I think it fits so perfectly in Memphis. I do. I really, really do. Memphis is a good team. They're deep as hell. They're well coached. They play incredibly hard. Defensively, they're great. Offensively, they play at an absurd pace, breakneck pace. Here's the problem. We know the game slows down in the playoffs. That's not a surprising thing. That's a foregone conclusion. The game is going to slow down for you. How do you get it out of the mud? Those are the teams that win. How good are you at getting it out of the mud? The reality is the Grizzlies are not good at that. They're not. They are not good at it. They've shown it in the playoffs in the past. Different team now. The Grizzlies are 13th in half-court offense. Not terrible. You know, it's not horrible. They're bottom 10 against top 10 defenses. Okay. They're 8-11 in clutch games. All right. That is what it is. They've dealt with so many injuries. You'd have to dive into those games to really see the context of it all. With the 12th best offense in the clutch, not the end of the world. But what's the goal for the Grizzlies? Are you going to be a top 3 seed and lose in round 1, round 2 again? Is that what we're okay with? You're not the Rockets. The Rockets could lose in round 1 and have a lot of interesting takeaways from their roster, and you'd still view it as a successful season. You've already done that several times if you're Memphis. You need someone. You get a guy who's great when the game slows down. Put the ball in Jimmy's hands. He's gonna make something happen. He'll score. He'll create something for someone else. He'll get to the free throw line. Playoffs come around. Jimmy Butler guards the other team's best wing. You feel good about that, even in his older age. But man, this would be nice for the Grizzlies. I really would like it. Like, yeah, Brandon Clark's good for them, but Marcus Smart's barely played at all since he's got traded to the Grizzlies. I don't think you'd feel sad about trading him. They're shopping Luke Kennard. He's expiring. I don't think they have any real plans of bringing him back. You're basically like out of your real rotation that you really like and rely on. It's basically like a Jimmy Butler for Brandon Clark swap, which you would do a million times. And then in this scenario, I also have the Magic adding on and grabbing Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard is 49% from three this year. 49, man. Making half of his threes. This isn't happening. I'm telling you this right now. This is not happening. I would love it though. I would. This is this is not happening, but I'm putting it on here. Why would the Heat be interested in any of that shit? The Heat aren't getting anything for Jimmy Butler. Understand like what the conversations have been. Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis. Like in this scenario, Brandon Clark's a fine, solid player who I think actually slots in next to Bam Adebayo pretty decently. Marcus Smart, hey, Terry Rozier's about to be suspended. All right. So where does this leave the Phoenix Suns in my trade universe here? I actually really like this trade for them here. They traded for some first-round picks, obviously, with the Jazz. And that was kind of here comes the Jimmy trade. They're making trades to make these salary dumps more appeasing. But now they can move some first-round picks, take it off of like a Nurkic, which is what I have happening here. The Raptors get Yusuf Nurkic, whatever, tank commander. Let's ride it out. And one of the Suns' first-round picks that they got for Chris Boucher and Davion Mitchell. Would the Raptors do this? The Suns say yes to this in a fucking millisecond. For the Raptors, reports that Chris Boucher and Davion Mitchell both are second-round picks guys that they're looking to get second-round picks for. So you're probably not getting a first-round pick for either of these guys, right? Just on their own. So because of the Suns' desperation to get off Nurkic, you can capitalize on that and get a first-round pick in return. But let's just say this is a trade that works. Again, if you're the Raptors, you're getting a first-round pick for two guys that weren't getting first-round picks on their own, for just being honest. And if you're the Suns, I mean, Chris Boucher, great. That plugs in 10 points per game this season, 37% from three, 53% from three in January, shooting out of his mind, plays good defensively. That also gives you some real legit lineup flexibility, which is something that you're kind of lacking in stuff. That's something that's important, obviously, come playoff time when you're dealing with matchups and stuff like that. And then Davion Mitchell gives you another guard to bring in off the bench to spell Tyus Jones. It's not a secret, really, what Tyus Jones brings. I think Tyus Jones has been a little disappointing at times for the Suns. But, I mean, the things we've seen with Tyus Jones aren't really that surprising. Defensively, he's horrible. The Suns have been better with Tyus Jones off of the court so far this season. That's mainly because their defense is much better when he's off the court. Davion Mitchell gives you, like, a real legit scrappy point of attack defender. Where does this leave the Bucks? One of the more peculiar situations in the league. Is there a chance the Bucks turn on Jimmy Butler? Yeah, I would say. That wouldn't be that surprising to me if that happened. Zach LaVine, I would love it. And I tried so hard. I tried so hard to get a Zach LaVine to the Bucks trade. It's so difficult. So difficult, man. I tried a 6-team trade. Only one 16 trade in the history of the NBA. And it was the Klay Thompson signing trade, by the way. One. And I tried to make it 2. Unfortunately, the Spotrac trade machine, I don't think, is ready for 6-team trades just yet. So I saw this. I think Bobby Marks did it in an ESPN article that we read. And I was like, oh, fuck. That's going to happen, isn't it? One of these type of trades right here that we just saw the Suns do. The Bucks really only have one pick to play around with, 2031. Could they use that pick to get a few other picks? Would the Thunder be willing to do this? Well, yeah, we already know that. They did last year. They helped the Mavericks facilitate a Daniel Gafford trade that in the long run kind of ended up being their downfall, hilariously enough. So the Thunder, unless I was misinterpreting the protections on some of these picks, are going to have 4 or 5 first-round picks this upcoming draft. Now, obviously, they're not in any position. They're not in any position to draft that many players, obviously. 2026, they have like 4 picks. 2028, they have like 4 picks, right? So this is very similar to that Jazz-Suns trade. The Thunder get a 2031 pick from Milwaukee, which that's juicy. That's a juicy pick right there. And they give the Bucks, there will be protections on these. There will be protections on these. Like, you get the worst out of this, you get the worst out of this, you get the worst out of this year. Absolutely, the Thunder would do that. I mean, there were reports that the Thunder were interested in doing the Suns trade. And then the Bucks used one of these picks to dump Pat Connaughton. That's what I have them doing. Pat Connaughton and one of the picks that they got into a Blazers trade exception for Delano Banton. Delano Banton I think could help them out actually. But if you're the Blazers, this is basically buying a first round pick. Which, hey, you're a rebuilding team. That's the type of shit you should be doing. Like, I think Delano Banton could do some stuff for the Bucks. Played him in 2K once. He was terrible at the game. But a good bucket getter. Chris Middleton, again, couldn't find a trade for him. I do respect his game. And, you know, in the real world, and not my little trade universe here, the Grizzlies don't get Jimmy Butler. Could they be interested? And maybe Chris Middleton? That contract is just spooky, man. It just is. If Chris Middleton were an expiring, completely different story. The fact that he's under the books for next year as well. I mean, I don't know. Like the Grizzlies, I mentioned again, where, hey, we get this bucket getter late in games who's been there a million times. Like that could be intriguing for a team like that. Indiana, I've heard tossed around, but that's really hard to do. I looked at that. Denver Nuggets, what about them? They were kind of interested. They mentioned in a Jimmy Butler trade all over my timeline, up and down it. I follow a lot of Nuggets people. Hilarious. Swipe Kane was getting shitted on. Shitted on by Jokic stands, calling him everything but his name for criticizing Jokic yesterday. It's nice to see. I see something like that. I'm like, okay, all right. It's not just me. Thank God. Thank God. I mean, Swipe a Cam, you're going to get mad at Swipe a Cam for criticizing Jokic? I mean, that's hilarious. All up and down my timeline. I'm done with Michael Porter Jr. I'm done with Michael Porter Jr. Is there a Jimmy Butler to the Nuggets scenario? It would be very complicated. The Nuggets would have to get under the apron to aggregate trades. Very, very to aggregate contracts. Very, very complicated. Levine actually probably fits their roster a little bit better. The problem then becomes, what exactly is Michael Porter Jr.'s value? Because in my brain, obviously, Michael Porter Jr. has more value than Chris Middleton. Surely, right? $38 million next year, $40 the year after that. Whew, that's a pretty penny. I do have them making a trade. And I don't necessarily love it, but I think they're going to do something like this. And you're going to see it and think, what the fuck? Just let me explain it. Let me explain myself. Zeke Naji and Dario Saric. A first for Jonas. Hold on. Let me explain. Now, I fucked up. This trade would have to include Tyson or Pickett. You might see trading a future first-round pick that might be very valuable. It has to be a pick swap because of protections, or they get rid of some protections on some of their future, some of the other picks that they owe. The thing that this accomplishes, not sure if the Wizards do this. That's what I was thinking too. But then I thought about this, right? One of the big deals for the Wizards last year, and I remember this, the Mavs trade Gafford to the Wizards. They basically threw a fucking parade at the fact that they got a first-round pick for that. You squint and you see 2031 first-round pick swap. And you're like, that could be really valuable for us down the line for Jonas Valanciunas. Now, you have to take Zeke Naji's dog shit ass contract. And trust me, folks, it's dog shit. You get a first. You're not getting a first from anyone else for Jonas Valanciunas. It's similar to that Chris Boucher trade. Like, you're not getting first for these guys unless you're dealing with very desperate teams. What does this do for the Nuggets? Why on earth are they trading a first-round pick for Jonas Valanciunas? DeAndre Jordan has been good for them. He was a DNP in their loss to the Bulls. They rolled out Aaron Gordon at the 5. What does that tell you? They're not all that confident in DeAndre Jordan, but also not sure how much you can rely on Aaron Gordon this year with that lingering calf problem. You get Jonas Valanciunas, very quality backup big. But here's what else this trade provides you. And I think there's a big caveat here, and I think the only way the Nuggets would want to really do something like this is if, hey, hush, under the table, Raptors, we can't find a Bruce Brown trade partner. We're going to buy him out. Okay. Nuggets say, great. We'd love to bring Bruce Brown back. Kind of redundant next to Russell Westbrook, but Bruce Brown probably be the top buyout market guy, if I had to guess. The Nuggets can't sign him unless they go under the apron. This trade would allow them to do that and go out and get like a high-quality buyout guy. So you'd have to view this as acquiring Jonas as well as a top-tier buyout guy. Atlanta Hawks, they're an interesting bunch. So obviously no Trae Young trade. I think people, whenever we talk about the Trae Young stuff, Trae Young is very valuable to the Atlanta Hawks in a lot of ways. The city of Atlanta loves him. He's like a true face of the franchise. Look at that beautiful face, right? So I don't see a trade that makes a lot of sense, and I never really have. Clint Capella is interesting. Expiring. They have Okongwu starting. Okongwu's look great. Capella's, a good backup big to have. But again, expiring, are there some contenders out there that need backcourt help or frontcourt help and could talk themselves into Clint Capella? Yes. $22 million is kind of difficult to match. And by all accounts, they really want to bring him back next year at a cheaper price. So I doubt we see a Clint Capella trade. DeAndre Hunter, playing some of the best basketball of his career. Could be interested in seeing what his market is. Do you kind of sell high here on a guy who is pretty pricey? 21 million this year, 23 the year after that, 24 the year after that. But again, as I mentioned, he's under contract 2 years after this. You're in no real rush to trade him if you're the Atlanta Hawks, who, by the way, are not trying to bottom out. They do not have control of their pick this year. So Bogey. So here's an interesting one. Having a down year, no two ways around it. Has been injured, hasn't looked good when he's played. Is set to miss his third straight game. And we're getting to the point where it's illnesses. We're getting to the point where it's personal reasons with the reason why he's missing games, which always makes you perk up a little bit in regard to trade talks at this time of the year. A guy's out because of personal reasons. A guy's out because of illness. Uh-oh. What does that mean? The reality is Bogey hasn't been good this year, but it's very possible that a team talks themselves into it. $17 million this year, 16 the year after that, a $16 million team option in 26-27. Hypothetical score off the bench as a secondary playmaker? No. Yeah, I mean, the idea of Bogey's great, but he's been injured this season. He's not young. He's 32 years old, has really fallen off. Sure. A team definitely will look at this and say 24 games for a guy who the rest of his career has been great. Probably should have won Sixth Man of the Year last year, if I'm being honest. Or this could just be it. Sometimes it just happens like that. I do have the Hawks making a trade. Again, there's no reason for them to bottom out. They don't have control of their pick. Now, that doesn't mean, we talked about this yesterday, that doesn't mean they shouldn't look to improve their future outlook, right? Just because you don't have control of your pick doesn't mean if a team's offering you picks in return for a player and you don't think your ceiling's that high, you should do it. Who cares if you give a team a high draft pick? All that matters is your future at this point. Larry Nance Jr. to the Clippers for PJ Tucker's expiring contract in three second round picks. Larry Nance Jr.'s returned recently. Every contending team in the league should be calling the Atlanta Hawks about Larry Nance Jr. The Clippers have a need in their front court, off the bench. I mean, does Larry Nance Jr. not just fucking feel like a Los Angeles Clipper with all of the things that they've got going on? So would Derrick Jones Jr. and Larry Nance Jr. be the best duo of juniors as lob threats? Hell yeah, that'd be fun. Like Larry Nance Jr. next to Harden, playing off of Harden screens. He kind of fits their identity really well. I like this trade quite a bit. Can shoot threes, athletic, defends, versatile defender for his size. What's next? De'Aaron Fox. All right, so let's. I can't believe I forgot about this. We've got it for so long. We haven't even gotten to the De'Aaron Fox trade. Let's talk about this. I have no clue if De'Aaron Fox gets traded. If I had to bet $1,000, does De'Aaron Fox get traded, yes or no? I would honestly say no. I just think it's too big of a deal to be made midseason. And I think the team that is the big player here, the San Antonio Spurs, aren't like super desperate for a trade. Now, that could change if a team like Miami, a team like Houston, all of a sudden says, hey, De'Aaron Fox, I will call your bluff. I will trade for you right now. That could make things interesting for San Antonio. He's a cancer to the team currently. I don't think he is. Like all of the reporting I've seen is that he has not demanded a trade. De'Aaron Fox has not requested a trade. He's going out and taking care of business. There's no weird locker room tension. And that's just from what I've seen. Now, of course, it's probably a little weird in the locker room naturally, but I don't think De'Aaron Fox is like sabotaging. There's not a Jimmy Butler situation happening here. I think if De'Aaron Fox is on the team post a trade deadline, you just keep business as usual. You keep going. But that's no fun. So I do have him getting traded in this scenario. Again, I think it's more so if you're the Spurs, I kind of think like, what's the point of waiting? What's the point of waiting? If De'Aaron Fox wants to come here, we have the pieces to make it work right now. Sure, maybe we wait a little bit longer and our bargaining power becomes a little bit better. But if we have the pieces, let's just do it. Maybe we make a play and push between now and the end of the season. We extend them. We've got our guys. Fox and Wemby's a great core. Now, there's reported mutual interest between the Spurs and De'Aaron Fox. I almost said the Foxes, which I guess could apply. I do have him getting traded to the Spurs in a 3-team trade. where I think the Jazz are going to try to be competitive if they make this trade. I don't think they're going to try and bottom out or tank. I think they're going to try and be competitive. They get Devin Vassell in return. I don't know how I feel about Devin Vassell in these scenarios. Is Vassell like an appealing asset at all? I really don't know. So I will say this. I've seen Spurs fans poke their chest out and say in no world is Castle tradable. And I would agree. I don't think you do that right now. You hold on to Stephon Castle for sure. I mean, Fox is much better than Stephon Castle. I saw Spurs fans who said they wouldn't trade Fox straight up for Stephon Castle. That's a little preposterous. I'm trying to think. I've also seen Spurs fans say they wouldn't want to include Vassell in this trade. That's crazy. That's fucking insane. And you guys know I am a big time Devin Vassell guy. He hasn't shown the improvement you would want him to show. Not consistent enough. And then worst of all, not consistently on the court. The shooting around would be a little gross. That's definitely something you'd have to address. Well, you get Kevin Huerter in the trade. You get a knockdown shooter. Red Rocket. What was Kevin Huerter's nickname? Red Velvet? Red Velvet. You get Red Velvet in return. Man, that nickname's gone now. It's funny once you start playing like shit. It goes back to your government name. The Kings want Devin Vassell or Stephon Castle. If I'm the Spurs, cool. Here's Devin Vassell. No questions asked. We're doing that for De'Aaron Fox. Keldon Johnson contract goes out. Cool. Fine. He hasn't played up to that contract. Completely, totally cool. Contractually, that is all it would take to make something like this happen. Of course, the Kings are going to ask for Stephon Castle. Of course, the Kings probably ask for Sohan. I mean, you should, right? If I'm the Spurs, I'm just not doing that trade right now, man. I'm not like any rush. If I'm the Spurs, this Atlanta Hawks pick's off the table. In a draft that has some very high-end talent at the top, that I agree. Sohan and Wemby play way too well off each other. I'm not trading him. That Hawks pick is off the table entirely in a negotiation when the Jazz want some picks in this deal. So I do have the Jazz getting a pick, a future pick with the Spurs. I'm not sure. What is John Collins' value? Is John Collins by himself? What's he worth? Like if our team, supposedly the Kings were very close to trading for John Collins earlier, like just days ago. What's his value alone? Surely not a first-round pick at $26 million, right? Surely not. A few seconds, right? So in this scenario, you're turning a player who you probably would get second-round picks for into a first. But yeah, you're taking on some contracts. You're taking on Keldon Johnson. You're taking on Trey Lyles. I think the Jazz do that. I do like it. I think if you're the Kings, you squint and you're like, yeah, we lost Fox. That sucks, but we're still pretty good. Devin Vassell, I think, fits in pretty well. John Collins is a player that fits us and we've wanted already. I like it, man. Fox and Wemby would be disgusting. I love it. I love that duo. I love it. The maybes. These were trades that I had originally and then scrapped. Like a trade like this. Celtics trade Jaden Springer into a Jazz trade exception. They save $17 million. Maybe the Jazz get some picks and some cash considerations. You know, this is real sicko hours. Putting cash considerations in a mock trade. Real fucking sicko hours right there. This one right here. So I love the Suns version of this trade. But this one also makes sense. Again, you'd have to tack on Hunter Tyson or Pickett to make it to where the Nuggets could sign buyout guys. But Chris Boucher to the Nuggets, they get off of the Zeke Najee contract, as well as the Dario Saric contract. Two shit-ass contracts. Man, they've done a terrible job. Calvin Booth has done a horrible job. Straight up. And this was the big Brandon Ingram trade I contemplated. It's very difficult to make it all happen. Now, in this scenario, I try to make it a 3-team trade where the Nuggets get off the Zeke Najee contract. They don't become a team that can mess around with buyouts, but you get Javonte Green in it and Chris Boucher. Like, at that point, do you really need buyouts? Those are like two guys that plug into your rotation, probably. Trading out guys who are not in your rotation. Brandon Ingram goes to the Raptors. The Pelicans get Bruce Brown's expiring, Kelly Olynyk and Saric. Like, ugh. Honest to God. The only thing that makes this interesting is you get a 2031 swap from the Nuggets, and let's just say the Raptors throw in a pick. I'm honestly not even sure. That's like so gross for the Pelicans. Like I don't want to pay $17 million to Kelly Olynyk and Dario Saric next year, man. I don't want to do it. What I'm saying, a Brandon Ingram trade is just nasty. It's nasty. It's hard. It's hard work. All right, folks. That was my trade deadline predictions. Come on, man. Let me get one. 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 But you want to know what's not depressing? This league is an awesome league. It is.